The divisional round is here for the NFL playoffs, and it is time to break it down here on Beef Up Front. After what was a pretty entertaining, I think, throughout wild card weekend, Texans Steelers game, I guess, a bit of a dud on Monday night, but the Niners going as almost a touchdown underdog, upsetting the Eagles. Crazy game in Buffalo and Jacksonville as well. Saturday we had two really good games with the Bears game and the Packers game. Obviously, the Rams Panthers even delivered. Ton of great football over the weekend, and that brings us to this weekend where you look at the matchups and you're like, all right, a lot of the big dogs from the past aren't in it. Like Josh Allen's really kind of like the last guy standing there out of the AFC. We got a whole new batch of teams in the AFC with Bo Nix, with CJ Stroud, with Drake May. One of those guys going to their first conference championship game no matter what. Then you look over at the NFC, we got some storylines too. Can the 49ers continue their run of either not making it into the playoffs or going to the Super Bowl? Sam Darnold, can he take a team to the NFC championship game? Can Caleb Williams and the Bears continue their magic, or will the Rams with all their veteran stars kind of take down this upstart Bears team? So a lot of different storylines to get into, but some great games coming up. Kev, welcome back, and how are we?
Yeah, great. It should be a lot of fun this weekend. Saturday, Sunday, and then even Monday, college football. And so it should be a fun 3 days of football.
Yeah, we start on Saturday with a doubleheader, two on Sunday, and then, as you said, Monday night, the college football playoff national champion. Does Carson Beck get that ring, or does Kurt Signetti complete one of the crazier stories in sports history? I think we could even say should be an interesting weekend of football, as you mentioned. But we got the sixth-seeded Bills coming off a win on the road at the Jags. Josh Allen, some late-game heroics, gets them that win down there against maybe the hottest team in the NFL. They'll travel to the one-seeded Broncos coming off the bye. 4:30 kick on CBS. Broncos, 1.5-point favorite here, over under 46. I think this game actually opened with the Bills being as the favorite. Now that's switched over to the Broncos. You think that Bo Nix can take down Josh Allen here head-to-head in a playoff game, Kev?
I think the Broncos can take down Josh Allen. I don't know if it's strictly going to be because of Bo Nix. I'm going Broncos 23, Bills 21. So Broncos -1.5, under 46. And I think the question of this game comes down to if Josh Allen can continue to be Superman. I think that's what's going to take for them to continue to win. So I like the Broncos here after a week off at home in Mile High. The Broncos defense has not been as dominant in the back half of the season, and they just haven't played the same way they came out of the gate. And no playoff team this year has forced fewer turnovers than the Broncos, which I think could be potentially be seen as a positive, that the defense is that good and they're not even turning you over a lot. So maybe this week they're able to get some turnovers and start to get things rolling better on defense. But the defense is elite at rushing the passer, and then Surtain in the back end can take away pretty much half of the field. And Surtain's talents might not even really be needed this week, as the Bills don't really have a great receiving corps. But the pass rush should be a big concern for the Bills. The Broncos had 68 sacks, which was fifth most in the NFL this year. That's 4 a game. And the Bills have lost 6 straight games, including 3 this year, when Josh Allen is sacked at least 4 times. And then for the Bills, their run defense is also not great. So I think as long as Bo Nix is able to play efficient and make mistake-free football, Dobbins, if he plays, and then RJ Harvey could be in for big days. And then Josh Allen could obviously go out and just have an unreal day, and the Buffalo defense make some plays against Bo Nix, and the Bills end up winning. But I'm going to be betting on the Broncos here.
Yeah, last week I took the Jags against the Bills, and my kind of rationale in that game was, I thought the Jags were just a better team. From top to bottom, you take the quarterback kind of out of it with Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. That's the only real advantage I gave to the Bills. I think that the Jags were kind of more advanced in every spot. You could have an argument between Travis Etienne and James Cook, but I just thought the Jags were a better, well-rounded team, and that was my rationale for picking them. And I think if you look at the Broncos and the Bills, you'd probably say the same thing here in terms of the Broncos being a more well-rounded team. But I think Josh Allen showed last week that you can triumph that with a superstar, once-in-a-generation type talent. And You can say that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Obviously, has the wins to back that up. Hasn't been on his A game, I think, necessarily the past couple years playing as well. But Josh Allen might just be the most talented player in the entire league on either side of the ball. And he just showed last week that at the end of the game, when you got to have it, that he can deliver. So that kind of makes me, just watching that game unfold last week, gives me the thought that, all right, this is his really one chance to not have to go through Lamar, not have to go through Patrick Mahomes, and get to the AFC title game, obviously, again, but then get to a Super Bowl. And I think he's going full kind of Superman mode this season during this playoff run. So I'm going to take the Bills to go 2 Mile High and to knock off the Broncos. I do think the Broncos are a better team. I think they have a better coach. But they've just won so many games this year closely. One possession games. I think it's 11 or 12 games they've won by one score. It's just a team that hasn't really dominated all year. They've beaten so many inferior opponents. Now they're playing the best player that they played, and I think this defense isn't as good as it was last year either. Josh Allen can just make plays out of nothing sometimes, and I think when you're on a 3rd and 8 in a playoff game in the last 2 minutes, I don't think there's anyone else in the league that you would rather have the ball in their hands than Josh Allen going out there to make a play. So I'm going to take the Bills to go to Denver and the Broncos. Great regular season, being the number 1 seed, second year with Bo Nix and Sean Payton working together. I think they have a bright future together, but I just think that this might just be the Bills' year out of the AFC. So I'm going to go 24-20 Bills, Bills plus 1.5, and I'll go under 46 there. All right, Saturday night, a rematch of a game we just saw a few weeks ago. 49ers, after pulling off a big upset last week in Philadelphia as the 6th seed, they'll travel to number 1 Seattle, who's 8-0, or excuse me, at 8 o'clock on Fox as the 1 seed. Seahawks are a 7-point favorite over under 45. We're recording this around 6 o'clock on Thursday night. Just a couple hours ago, Sam Darnold showed up on the injury report with an oblique. You'd have to think he's probably going to play, but for something to pop up out of the blue like that, it makes you a little bit worrisome. So any thoughts on that potentially impacting this game, Kev, or do you really think the Seahawks win regardless of the health status of Darnold?
I mean, given we don't know the severity, I'm still going to go with the Seahawks. But if he's able to not go, I mean, that obviously completely changes things. But I'm going into this under the assumption that he's going to be able to go and play at a pretty high level this weekend. So I'm going Seahawks 27, Niners 21. So 49ers cover the 7 over 45. The fact that the Niners are here is incredible, but things only got worse for them last week with George Kittle's injury. But on the bright side, it's looking like Fred Warner may be able to go this game. If they're somehow able to win without him, he should be back for the NFC Championship game at least. But as the line shows, I think it's going to be a very tall task for them to win this game. The Seahawks are pretty much a perfectly balanced team. The offense has big playability. JSN has 27 explosive plays this season. That's just himself. They have a ton of other guys who are able to do things out of the backfield and out wide. And then the Seahawks defense limited the Niners to 10 points in the 2 matchups they had this year. A huge load, I think, is going to be on Christian McCaffrey's shoulders. And he had just 23 rushing yards the last time these 2 teams met in the regular season. The Niners have been scraping by, but I think their season ends here to a team that I think is just truly better than them.
Yeah, you have to wonder, like, is that a win last week that kind of invents a new life into this 49ers team? Because I did think after losing that game to Seattle, that was a really deflating loss to end the regular season, ruin their division title hopes, obviously ruin their number 1 seed and potentially having home field advantage all the way through the Super Bowl. But for them to be able to bounce back, go on the road to Philadelphia, who's had so much success in the playoffs at home over the past few seasons, it just makes you think, like, is this a team now that rides momentum? Now without George Kittle too, that's obviously a huge loss, but do they have that kind of chip on their shoulder, playing for him, playing for all those other guys that have been hurt this year, or did they just catch an Eagles team that was ready to implode at that point? I think you can look at it either side of the fence. I'm going to side more so on, I think the 49ers hang around in this one. I think they make this a tough game, and I think they've definitely learned from playing a couple weeks ago. I think that game a couple weeks ago, even though they lost, kind of benefits them more in this spot than the Seahawks because they basically saw everything that didn't work. The Seahawks, I think, are going to try and roll out the same blueprint, the same game plan that they had to stop San Francisco to really limit that offense in the first place a couple weeks ago. but now San Fran can go back, look at everything that they did wrong, and go back to kind of fix that. So I think the 49ers definitely make this a little bit closer of a game. But you've touched on it a few times this year. It's Brock Purdy's interceptions and his kind of up and down play, especially against this really good Seahawks defense. And we saw with the Eagles too last week. He gifted the Eagles 2 turnovers. The offense just wasn't able to fully take advantage of it. So what Brock Purdy shows up in terms of turnovers in this one, are the Seahawks able to capitalize, I think is the major difference maker. I'm going to ride with Seattle at home, but 7 points is a ton, especially for a divisional game, especially for two teams that have played already twice this season. I think the Niners keep this one close, but the Seahawks kind of edge it out at the end with a victory and go to the NFC title game. So give me the Seahawks 21, Niners 17, Niners +7. And I really like the under 45. I don't know if that's a too obvious of a play with how the last game went, but I'm going to ride with the under there as neither of those teams were really able to consistently move the ball on offense. All right, we go to Sunday to the AFC now. Number 5, Texans at the number 2 seeded Patriots. 3 o'clock kick on ABC. Patriots -3, over under 41. Two of the quarterbacks that I assume we're going to be seeing for the next 10 to 15 years as the next era of quarterbacks in the NFL, vying for their first chance for the AFC title game. So CJ Stroud, Drake May, who do you like in this one, Kev?
I like CJ Stroud and the Texans winning a close, low-scoring one, 21-17. So Texans +3, under 41. Big injury news came out yesterday. Christian Gonzalez cleared concussion protocol, and Nico Collins was ruled out with a concussion for this one. Obviously, that's news that favors the Pats. I'm still going to be taking the Texans here. The defense for the Texans is just incredible. I think they're going to be able to limit this Drake May-led offense and potentially score some points themselves like they did last week against the Steelers. And then the Texans offense will need to definitely play better than they did last week. 3 turnovers again. That will just be a major problem in this game. And the Pats last week were able to pretty much shut down the Chargers offense. But the Texans have had their own problem on the offensive line. So the Pats pass rushers, I think, could have another solid day here. I keep getting close to talking myself into the Pats, and then I just think about the Texans defense. I think it will be very close and low scoring, with Houston going under in 7 of 9 of their road games this season, and every total for one of their games this year has been 45 or under. And the Houston defense, I think, makes a few big plays, and Stroud doesn't make any horrible mistakes, so I'm going Texans winning here.
I'm rolling with the Texans too. I think the Patriots defense was definitely impressive last week for what they did to the Chargers. But the Chargers, kind of like the Eagles, we're just a team that I think we're able to kind of limp to the playoffs, take advantage of some inferior teams. And then when they got there and played a legitimate opponent, it kind of blew up in their face. And the Chargers offensive line woes, I think Herbert was pressured on 30 of his 31 dropbacks, I think I read. For that to be a sustainable winning success was never really in the cards. So, hats off to the Patriots and their defense for playing that way, but I still wasn't that impressed with them. They weren't really able to move the ball on offense. And now this Texans defense, some of the more legit defensive pass rushers I think we've ever seen collectively in one unit. When you have Daniil Hunter on one side, Will Anderson on another side, and all 3 levels with the linebackers, with the safeties and the corners on this defense, this is one of the more impressive units I can remember. And everyone in the league rants and raves about how good this team is. And I think in the playoffs, we see 9 times out of 10 these elite defenses triumph over these high-level offenses. So I don't think Drake May has necessarily seen this type of defense before, having the advantage of getting to play at home. Sure, that's always up your sleeve, but for the Texans to go on the road, out of a dome, and play the way they did at Pittsburgh last week, and that was a Steelers team that was playing pretty good football, I think, down the stretch. I think that gives them some confidence. Now, CJ Stroud, I think he's going to have to go into this one, play a little bit better, and without Nico Collins, that's certainly a blow too. And the Texans offensive line, probably the weakest unit on that team, but the Patriots defensive line, I don't think necessarily their performance was that great last week. I think it was more so a benefit of playing a really weak Chargers offensive line. So I like the Texans to win in this one. They were my pick at the beginning of the playoffs to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and I did have the Patriots losing last week. I still think that they're a little bit on fraud watch. If they're able to win this one and go to the AFC title game, that'll shut me up for sure. But I like the Texans to win this one. I think they cause a turnover or 2 on Drake May, and they punch their ticket to the AFC title game. Really like the under in this game too. I'll go 20-17 Texans +3, under 41 there. All right, wrap it up on Sunday night. The 5 seed Rams at the number 2 seed Bears. Two teams coming off pretty crazy wins last week. 8:30 kick, I believe, or is this actually a 6:30 kick on
6:30.
NBC? Wow. Okay. It's a little weird to say that for Sunday Night Football, but 6:30 kick on NBC. Rams 3.5-point favorite. Over under there is 48.5.
Yeah, I'm going Rams winning a little bit of a higher scoring game here compared to the other 3 games, 31-27. Rams minus 3.5, over 48.5. The Rams are my Super Bowl pick, and it's because of McVay and Stafford. Last week was way closer than anyone thought it would be, but I think it shows that Stafford is always ready for the moment and can bring his team to a win late. The defense was so good early in the season, but has definitely struggled on the back half of the season. And then the Bears just continue to come back and win crazy games in crazy fashion. The comebacks are always incredible and fun, but I feel like at some point the slow starts are going to catch up to them. It always seems to in the playoffs, something that's been a team's Achilles heel all year seems to come out and rear its head in the playoffs. And then the Rams offense is going to be able to move the ball and score the ball. The Bears defense was 29th and 23rd in yards and points this season, but they did turn teams over a ton. They'll certainly need, I think, a few turnovers this week. And the game is in Chicago where weather could be in play. And then Stafford also has that banged up finger. So I do think the Bears are going to be able to keep it relatively close, at least late. If they're down a bunch late in the game, I think they'll be able to come back, make the score seem a little bit closer than maybe the game actually was. But I'm going Rams winning here.
I'm going to ride with the Rams, too. I think the Bears have just been riding so much magic all year. And, hell, maybe they're able to kind of ride that out all the way to an NFC title game, all the way to a Super Bowl. I think the Bears fans would certainly take that magic. But you have to think the little fairy dust that they've seemed to have on them throughout the second half of the season, hell, maybe even the entire season, it is bound to wear out at some point. And I thought the Packers have been fraudulent all year. They did have the Bears had a lot of stuff go their way with some missed kicks. Caleb Williams making a great play there on 4th and 8. Man, and I always say you can look at it like both sides of the fence. Same thing with like the Broncos and winning all their close games. Their games are a little bit more boring, a little bit closer throughout, and the Bears, on the other hand, are making these big comebacks. But I do think there goes a thing about saying winning these games, all these close games, you're just that's your identity as a team. You find a way to do it. Good teams find ways to win. Bad teams find ways to make excuses. So I think you can definitely point to the Bears and say they have a chance. They're always underdogs. Like Vegas doesn't respect this team. I think Vegas is always looking at them as kind of a Cinderella type team. And for the Rams to be a 3.5-point favorite on the road here is pretty eye-opening to me. I thought if it would be anything, it would be maybe like Rams minus 1.5 or even just like a pick 'em in that sense. But I think the Rams just at the end of the day experience triumphs, this luck and this inexperience from this Bear squad. When you look at Matt Stafford, you look at Puka, Kyron Williams, Devontae Adams, Sean McVay, these guys have all been there before. They've all done that. They've played in these big games, these big moments. And the Bears, they've been able to step up to the moment, step up to the stage when their number's been called and make some late game heroics. But I just think against these really good teams, that luck's going to wear out at the end. I think the Rams in this one are going to get up pretty big, pretty comfortably, maybe like 14, 17 points. And the Bears make a last-ditch effort here in the fourth quarter. But I do think the Rams come up out on top in this one. I will take the Bears plus 3.5, though. I think that hook there is a big thing. But I love some points in this one. I'm going to go Rams 35, Bears 33. So Bears plus 3.5 over 48.5. All right, let's go to our touchdown parlay. One leg from Saturday, one leg from Sunday. I'll start it off on Saturday. My Saturday leg with Zach Charbonnet minus 115. The big thing that stuck out to me about that 49ers Seahawks game just a couple of weeks ago was the ability for the Seahawks to run the ball on the 49ers. Even Saquon ran the ball for over 100 yards last week against that 49ers defense. We know that's a banged up unit. And I think Charbonnet has been the guy really around the goal line all year for this team. So give me Zach Charbonnet minus 115 for my first touchdown score.
Yeah, my Saturday pick, I'm going RJ Harvey minus 125. The Bills are not very good against the run, and I think the less Bo Nix has the ball in his hands, the better.
All right, second pick for me on Sunday, I'm going to go with Puka minus 125. I think, especially with Devontae's time out of the lineup recently, Puka's trust with Stafford, and just Stafford's willingness to go to him has even improved more. We saw last week even a couple scores from Puka around the goal line, and that's where they usually throw to Devontae. Now, how maybe Devontae's the guy on the play sheet this week, but Puka minus 125. Dude's been a monster the entire season. I think it's foolish not to have him scoring a touchdown this week.
Yeah, my second pick, Colston Loveland plus 190. He's really come on strong to end the season, and Caleb really seems to trust him. And like you were saying, if the Bears get down early and are trying to come back, I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, so we'll have plenty of balls thrown his way.
17-1 there for those 4 legs, and guys that have been balling out all season. So love that play there. Dog of the day, our favorite underdog. I'm going to go with Texans plus 3. I have them winning outright on the road. I like the Bills too, but I really think the Texans find a way to go to Foxborough and win outright this weekend. So you can say keep your 3 points, take them on the money line, but definitely love them there plus the 3.
Yeah, I have the same pick. Texans plus 3 would take them on the money line. They're the only underdog I picked outright this week for all the reasons we already talked about, mainly their defense.
My lock of the week, I'm going with Bears-Rams over 48.5. We saw both these offenses put on a show last week, and we saw the Rams defense, I think, has really struggled over the second half of the season. They gave up just 30 points last week to the freaking Panthers, who have been barely able to move the ball in some weeks. I think the Bears defense too is one of probably the worst unit remaining in the entire playoffs. The offense has really carried that team, and the defense has been able to get some key turnovers, but they haven't been able to stop teams really from yards and from scoring this season. So I think the Bears and Rams go back and forth on each other, put up 60 plus. Love the over 48.5 in that game.
Yeah, my lock of the week, I'm going Brock Purdy, 2+ interceptions against the Seahawks, which is plus 271. He had 2 last week in Philly, 10 in 9 games this year, and they do seem to come in bunches with him.
All right, that'll wrap it up. Divisional round, one of the best weekends of the NFL season. We'll be back next week. Hard to believe, conference championship week already, but thank you everyone for tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe. We'll talk next week.